Hello, and welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. This is the sort of third review that I've been doing here on some supermarket releases, the single malt, non-age stated supermarket releases which I picked up recently. Affordable, inexpensive, cheap, call them what you will. This one, the old Pulteney Harbour. 40% non-chill filtered, 40% non-chill, 40% chill filtered, probably colour added, probably. Although if there is colour added, it's fairly natural. So this one, Old Pulteney, I've got a bit of a sort of relationship with. It's been a while since I've had an Old Pulteney that I've really enjoyed. Put it like that. So this one, a little tight. At first is what I would call it. It is just all a little tight. I know I haven't spent an awful lot of time with it, as you can see, but I know, and I'm saying already, that it's a little tight at the start because I know this whiskey opens up. So I can easily tell you that it'll start tight in your glass, and it does open up. You're looking at sort of fleshy stone fruit, peach, not necessarily stone fruit, but mandarin orange, that sort of thing. So it's gentle, fruitier, creamier notes, like a peach yogurt, one of those yogurt drinks even, where there's that creamy smell off it, as well as the fruit being in there at the same time. But then, as it opens up, which it does quite quickly, it all becomes about the cereal, and this just becomes barley. It's barley sugar. It's natural barley. It's malted barley. You can smell. Like I tend to use a jar of grist as a note, as a smell, as to give people the smell of what malted barley is if I'm doing tastings, and this opens into that, where those cereal notes, those real good pure cereal notes of the barley, of the malted barley, just come through, which is, I love that. This is ex-bourbon matured. So it's one of those things that if you keep it as pure and natural, which is what this is. It's light. Yes, it's 40%. It's non-chill filtered. Why do I keep saying that? It's 40%. It's chill filtered. It's good. It's probably a colour added. It's a cheap product technically, but it's also proof that if you want to keep it cheap in the market, keep it affordable, shall we say, rather than cheap, you use ex-bourbon casks. You keep the price down there a bit. You blend it up. You don't be pulling from your best bourbon casks. You don't be keeping it in the best part of the warehouse maybe. You keep your pricing down, and then you keep the price down for the consumer, for the person who's buying it. But in this case, there's not a damn thing wrong with it either. It's young. The palate would say it's young as well. An awful lot of that grain element. Sweet, sour arrival. Yes, those peachy notes. Yes, those creamy notes carry through. It's youth that tends to bring some of that, those cereal notes through. If the casks haven't really had a whole lot of time to take hold, you would be expecting, if this had much more age about it. If they were using any sort of casks at all, you would be expecting the caramels and vanillas, etc., to come through. There's not an awful lot of that going on. It's all about the grain, the cereal. Yes, some of those peachy notes. Yes, some of those softer fruit notes, but I like it a lot. It's one of the best Old Pulteneys I've had in a long time. And once again, given that I paid around about the £25 mark for it, like the rest of these bottles that I've been doing in the supermarket sweep, usually around 35 to 40, I'm going to say, which is, to me, pushing it in the price then. £25, 100%. I would replace it tomorrow. 35 to 40. I don't know. I don't know that it's that good. And I know that's only 10 to 15 pounds difference, but that 10 to 15 pounds means an awful lot. If you added up what I'd saved in the 4 bottles that I'm reviewing from the supermarket sweep, you could, the money that I've saved carries on, that goes into another bottle or a better bottle, etc. So, if we're being cautious with our money, I don't know that I would pay the extra 10 to 15 pounds for this if I seen it on the shelf. But at 25 pounds, I'm glad I bought it. Put it like that. Yeah, it is youthful. But there's enough other things going on to make this interesting. That finish, actually the finish isn't bad. Like the rest of short to medium length finish once again. But the cereal notes, those peachy creamy notes hang around. It's worth every penny of 25 pounds, believe me. It really is. Let's leave it there. So I'm going to recommend something to you that probably a few of you will disagree with me, but it's another 40% or one that if you bought this, because this sort of, I'm not saying that this series is aimed at, well, it sort of is. This is for those people who bought this in the supermarket. They seen it at 25 pounds and they went, do you know what? I'm going to take a punt. I usually buy Bell's. I usually buy White and Mackay. I usually buy, this cheap blend, that cheap blend. Let's have a pop at a non-aged stated single malt because it's 25 pounds a bottle. They've bought this and they went, you know what? This is better than the usual that I buy. What else should I buy? Well, that's what I'm here for. That's the service I provide. And what I'm going to suggest, sometimes you see in the supermarket, don't see it as often as you used to, the Deanston Kentucky cask, Kentucky oak, whatever they're calling it. Because here's the thing. Whiskey enthusiasts, like myself, we enjoy our Deanston. We do. The 12-year-old is pretty much where I would suggest that the Deanston core range should start. There's a virgin oak and the Kentucky cask come prior to that. I'm neither here nor there about the virgin oak. I'm neither here nor there about the Kentucky cask. But this, remember, is aimed at you, the person who bought the old Pulteney as a step up from your usual blend. So, if you want to keep the price down, if you see it about the likes of that Deanston, because that then is a gateway into Deanston. So before you know it, you have 300 balls of single malt in yourself. And you're loving whiskey. You're one of us now. But that's the way to do it. Keep the prices down at the start. I preach this all the time. If you're starting a whiskey journey, don't buy yourself a bottle of £50 whiskey. Even $50, €50, wherever you are in the world. That's too much, in my opinion. You add $10, £10, €10, 15 years to that, and you buy a bottle of cheap, and that cheap. 3 different bottles, three wildly different styles of whiskey. And then you see whether you can get on with it or not. And if you can spot the differences between those whiskies. Don't be going out and spending lots of money on one whiskey and thinking that you're going to enjoy whiskey, because you might not enjoy whiskey at all. That's a video for another time. But this, right, the Deanston's gone there. This old Pulteney I was actually impressed by. I would take this old Pulteney over the 12-year-old. Would. It's young, but it's nicer. It's nicer in my opinion. Yeah. Going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining me. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much to my patrons. Should anybody wish to take part in that group, join into that group, and share some love with the channel, we very much appreciate it. All the details are in the video description below. I'll be back the next time. Hope you can join me then. Until then, look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.